Hello, my name is Ali and welcome to my channel. We are back with Hakuoki Kyoto wins Saito's route. Now I think this may be my last episode with it. I'm not sure. I hope so because I want to move on to the next person. Anyway, let's just go. Even the Owari, the family domain, are twiddling their thumbs and claiming neutrality. How the hell can you say you're neutral when there's a war going on? At least have the balls to just come out and say you'd rather watch the shogunate eat dirt. The three houses of the Tokugawa comprised one of the most prestigious domains in Japan. Many previous shoguns were alumni of this group. To think such domain betrayed the shogunate. Did we really lose that many men? Bastards got some sort of vicious new gun. Got a longer range than anything we've seen before, and it fires so damn fast we can't charge in while they're reloading. Cut our guys down like grass. Guess swords don't have a place in war anymore. Saito looked down and said nothing. He'd built his life around the sword, and now, just like that, it meant nothing. Oh, Sanan. It gets worse. Our enemies are armed with silver bullets. And let's look this up right now. Okay. Oh my god, that's so loud. Silver. The precious metal, it somehow counteracts the healing powers of the Furies. Silver bullets? Why? It's a way to counter the Fury Core. Someone on the other side knows a lot about Furies. Probably more than we do. A Fury can heal from nearly any injury, but silver bullets seem to somehow negate that. Our advantage comes from our ability to recover quickly as much as from the superhuman strength. Without our speedy healing, we're little different than from a normal human. We don't anticipate the silver bullets. We didn't anticipate in the silver bullets, and lost most of the Fury Core in the last battle. We're not sure what to do next. That's when Saito finally spoke. Commander, there's something I need to tell you. What? Saito looked straight into the commander's eyes and spoke in a calm, level voice. I drank the water of life. I am now a Fury. What? Every face in the room turned to Saito, shocked. Why the hell did you do that? I had no choice, but I do not regret my decision. Hijikata was silent for several moments. You too, huh? That was all he said. You've made an excellent decision, Saito. Welcome to the fold. Done catching up? Good. Get your stuff together. Looks like we're being put on a boat for Edo. What? Why Edo? We're not going to hold the castle with Lord Yoshinobu here. Their faces fell when I spoke. Our supreme commander, in his infinite wisdom, has abandoned his men and left them to fight and die on his behalf. He ran back to Edo a while ago. I just about lost my shit when we heard about that. I mean, come on, have you ever heard of a war? Where the guy who started it runs away as soon as people start fighting? Sure makes our future an exciting place though, doesn't it? Oh no. Inoue had died, and Yamazaki had been wounded. Though they were the only ones I knew, I had little doubt that many other men had fought for the shogun and been wounded or killed. And instead of staying to support his army, he'd abandoned them to their fate and been the first to run to safety in Edo. It was awful. The shogun abandoned us. I figured he'd got his reasons. Politics isn't our problem. All we do is fight with honor. Yes, you're right. He nodded, his face so placid, I guess that's the word, as ever. His face as placid as ever, but In his eyes, I could see defeat and despair. We need to begin preparing for our return to Edo, but all of the warriors seemed dejected, slumped by the heaviness of our defeat. Saito, of course, wasn't safe from this dejection. Saito? I stopped myself for a second, but decided to approach him. However, he kept his eyes fixed on his tatami mat, not even acknowledging me. Saito. I called out to him once more, and all of a sudden, he snapped out of his concentration, and he shot a glance towards me.
Pardon me. I was lost in thought. As the commander stated earlier, our leaders have their reasons, so all we can do is abide by their word at the moment. Firstly, let us count the number of casualties. They are surely short-handed at the moment.
Saito didn't seem to believe his own words, and his tone lacked any luster or emotion. I couldn't really blame him, though. He and the other Shinsengumi captains had risked their lives to uphold the shogunate flag in battle, and then Lord Yoshinobu just gave up. To think our supreme commander could even think to abandon his men and his army.
What are you still doing here? The injured are being brought out as we wait. You have medical experience. If you hurry, I am certain you will be of use. Go check on them.
Saito seemed eager for me to leave, but I just stood there, looking back at him, and instead of leaving, I asked him a question. Saito? What's going to happen to the Shinsengumi?
What do you mean by that?
Saito was clearly annoyed, throwing another question at me. Seeing the coldness in his response made me flinch a little, but I thought it was an important question to ask, so I did what I thought was necessary to help my anxieties. Lord Yoshinobu has abandoned us, right? So if we follow him back to Edo, what will happen then? Does he retreat men that the shogunate has no further plans to fight against the Satsuma or Choshu troops?
Well, nothing has determined as of yet. Perhaps he is looking to regroup, as there are far more soldiers at his disposal in Edo. Being concerned about such matters is futile.
But,
as I have stated, many of the injured are being carried out of here to board the ship. What is most needed at this moment is helping the injured and departing for Edo. If there are those who need our assistance, then we must do what we can to help them. There is no time for any other distractions.
His words came at me quickly and aggressively, and it made me think something was off. Even when he seemed agitated, or things were hectic, Saito always found time to speak with me or answer my questions. But today, he was completely flippant, looking as though he were trying to avoid talking to me altogether. How should I answer this? We're going to say, I understand. I understand. I will help, Saito. There was so much to worry about, but now wasn't the time to stress about it. Our tasks were beginning to pile up, and many people were depending on us. Then, I shouldn't be overly concerned about what could be, and just focus on the present. Butterfly!
That's the spirit. Now let us go.
His tone seemed to perk up, even just a tad, and he bowed his head. When I looked at Saito's back, his posture seemed so broken. I stopped to call out for him. Even since I lost contact with my father, I'd felt so lonely and full of worry. But I thought that my worry would do me no good, so I made the decision to come to Kyoto myself to search for him. So I may not know exactly what you're feeling or how you're dealing with those feelings, but in the end, I think what's important is to trust those feelings and act on them. Saito stopped in his tracks, and he seemed to twitch a bit. Soon he turned around to face me. Just a second ago, his eyes seemed dead, but it appears they have been reignited with a purpose. He looked at me sternly.
Let's go.
His words were curt, but it felt like a sense of determination has returned to Saito. And we're going to fade away and come back. As the two of us were leaving the castle, he turned around once more, sadness resting in his face. Are you all right? I asked him softly, but he gave me no answer. After a pause, he wiped the cold sweat from his brow, and he looked into my eyes.
All good. Let's continue.
His voice was resolute. Being out in the sun as a fury, from what I'd heard, was quite painful. If you start feeling sick, then maybe you should rest until evening. I made a timid suggestion, but Saito quietly looked back at me and muttered,
Your words from earlier enlightened me.
Huh? The suddenness of his statement caught me off guard, and I stared confused at him. He turned to face his feet, and his tone seemed almost self-depreciating. Or deprecating, derp.
No matter what Lord Yoshinobu does, as his servants, we have to rest. Oh my God. We have no right to stray from our duties or question his motives. I am not sure what caused him to waver.
Saito looked at me sheepishly, as if he were embarrassed by his own doubts earlier. Seeing his reaction made me realize something. All this time, Saito worked hard to let his doubts and worries never get the best of him. But I wasn't the only person who felt these doubts. Saito this whole time was also anxious. I mean, he never showed any sign of worry when he was ordered to spy on the guard, or when he drank the water of life. In my heart, somehow, I had just assumed that he was impervious to worry, and that he always got the better of his emotions. Then he looked longingly into my eyes.
The future of both the shogunate and the Shinsengumi are plagued by uncertainties. However, all of that will be discussed in Edo. Our future begins now. So, I feel for your concerns, but for now, do not let them conquer you. For now, we must uphold our responsibilities and leave for Edo. Understood?
Yes. Saito turned back around to make his way to the dock, but his aura was completely changed. If I had done anything to improve Saito's mood, then nothing could make me happier. I was thrilled that, even just once, that I was able to give back to Saito. I know that Saito and the Shinsengumi will be able to find their purpose as we return to Edo. But when we return to Edo, what awaits me? The whole reason I'd left Edo was for the purpose of finding my father. Later that night, I couldn't bring myself to sleep. Tomorrow the men of the Shinsengumi would be on their way aboard a ship to Edo. But what was become of me? There were rumors floating about that my father was siding with the Satsuma Choshu troops, and now, to top it off, he was with Kazuma. I'm sure this is what Saito had reported to Hijikata when they spoke together. So technically the Shinsengumi no longer had any obligation to look after me. Ooh. I was running through all of these thoughts when I heard footsteps from outside my room. I wonder who it could be at this hour. Softly, I slid my door open to take a quick peek to see whom it was.
Yukimura, are you still awake?
Saito.
The sea is harsh to those who do not sleep well. It's better to rest your body as much as possible.
Yes, I know that, but when we return to Edo, all of you will be on standby for the next battle, right?
That's right.
I felt nervous speaking, especially with what I'd wanted to say next, but so am I not allowed to come along with you guys?
What?
I know I'm not really of much use on the battlefield, and I could barely protect myself. Well, especially if we're up against Kazuma, then I stand no chance of protecting myself. And I know that the reason you let me stay with you all was because I was looking for my father. So yeah, there's nothing really keeping you guys responsible for me anymore. Does that make me a burden?
Well, when it comes to actually fighting, I think you would be. You, of all people, should know.
His words were a lot harsher than I anticipated, and I could only hang my head. He was right. All I'd ever be was a burden, if I couldn't fight, but still insisted to be by their side. The Battle of Toba Fushimi should have told you something. War isn't the same as it used to be. Someone standing beside you today may very well become a corpse the next day. These are the kinds of things you must anticipate. Even still, we who abide by the way of the sword are prepared to fight until our deaths, but you are not one of us. There's no reason for you to needlessly risk yourself in proximity to these dangers. Hearing Saito's word made me realize that, even if it hurts to say it, he puts my safety above almost anything. Saito wasn't necessarily the best person with words, but it still makes my heart warm to hear it. I do have a reason, though. You saved my life, Saito, so I want to pay you back. But I did so for my own purpose. You have no reason to feel like you owe me anything. That's not a good enough excuse. Would you be satisfied hearing it from my side if I had told you the same thing? Saito turned away, refusing to look at me, as if he were dealing with a petulant child from which he could not wait to leave. Eventually. Excuse me. Saito reached for the kadachi on my hips, and, without a word, took it into his hands, sheathed. He gripped my kadachi tightly. As I stated earlier, if you stay with us, you never know when you could be confronted with death. Are you suggesting that you still want to come with us, knowing this to be the truth? Yes. Saito looked into my eyes intently, gazing towards me with a quiet seriousness, and I gave a huge nod. Oh, jeez. Ooh. Then take your kadachi. If you have the will, I hope you are truly ready for what it means to put your life on the line. Oh my gosh, he's so pretty. Saito silently handed me back the kadachi, watching my movements as if he were still testing me. His eyes glimmered against the light, and he stared back at me while I gulped nervously. Don't forget one thing, Chizuru Yukimura. The minute you take on this kadachi, I will no longer treat you like a guest. You will embark on a path from which there is no turning back. His eyes were stern, and they were staring at me with such intensity that I couldn't breathe. But I asked to stay, keeping all of this in mind. With this newfound resolve, I reached for my kadachi, and Saito smiled faintly. I've accepted your resolve. I will no longer tell you to return to Edo. You follow us wherever you go. We go. Okay. Although his expectations for me were huge, I felt warm from his words, and I loosened up. During the 4 years in which the Shinsengumi had looked after me, I couldn't ever shake the thought of feeling like an outsider. But now, for the first time, I finally felt like I'd been accepted as one of them. I will follow the Shinsengumi wherever you guys go, and I'll be by your side the whole time, Saito. No matter what happens in the future, I have faith in everyone, including you, Saito. I see. He kept his responses brief, but I could see the smile forming on Saito's lips. I wondered if he was ever a little happy to hear... I wondered if he was even a little happy to hear that I was going to join them. I'm sure we will be facing the Satsuma and Choshu, and even Kazuma when we return to Edo, but I felt like as long as I'm with Saito, I'll be all right. I had a mysterious confidence well up in my heart, and I smiled back. Oh, we're fading away. Is this the end? It is. January 1868. The Battle of Toba Fushimi ended with the Satsuma and Choshu victorious. As the shogunate troops retreated, the Shinsengumi headed towards Edo. 4 years ago, I came to Kyoto all by myself in search of my father and met the Shinsengumi. I'm going to leave the city of Kyoto, where I made fond memories with the Shinsengumi. Despite the battlefield, where the frick did I get that from? Despite the defeat, his resolve didn't waver, and I have chosen to walk alongside him. We are going to head to Edo, without knowing what fate awaits us. Bump, bump, bump. Fiend. Wow. That was... Wow. I like Saito. He's cute. I like his personality and everything. He's so sweet. But he's so serious, too. You know, I do like that route. Our next route would be Heisuke. Todo Heisuke. So I do have... Oh, geez, that was loud. I have my cry alert. And with Saito I've cried, Hijikata I cried, but Okita I did not. So I wonder if I'm going to cry with Todos. I probably will. But yeah, I have all of them listed, and I have with Mystic Destinies, all that. So I hope you are enjoying watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!